Maybe you feel like you've been rejected. Maybe you feel even disgusting, but I want you to know that Jesus will touch the dirty places in your life.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Festive Fridays. My name is James, and if you're new around these parts, my fiance Jen and I talk about conservative politics and Christian fundamentalism on this channel. Now we call our fans the Jennonites, and if you're a Jennonite in good standing, then you probably know that Jen usually covers the more fundamentalist subjects on this channel, where I tend to cover the more political subjects on this channel. But today we're going to switch things up as I cover a fundamentalist who, to my knowledge, has never run for office before, as we're going to talk about God's favorite Red Cup crusader himself, Joshua Feuerstein. Now, I do want to encourage everyone, if you missed it, to go back and check the content warning at the beginning of this video. Joshua, even more than most of our subjects on Fundy Fridays, presents a lot of jarring, objectionable shit, and I want to make sure that no one gets traumatized or re-traumatized by this video. So please, if you haven't, go take a look at that content warning. I'm going to try and note some of the more intense moments before they happen during the video, but all the same, I think it's good if everyone's aware. Now, if you didn't recognize that name by that face, let me give you a quick rundown. Joshua is a shock jock internet pastor in the same vein as more prominent contemporaries like Steven Anderson or Greg Locke. He says the nastiest shit he can come up with on camera, blames God for it later, and then rakes in all the money from the zealots who like that kind of stuff. It's a well-tread formula at this point, but one that Joshua has made his own through a combination of oddity, intensity, and quotability. For example,
Jesus was the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody can come to the Father but by him. Hashtag boom, hashtag drop mic, hashtag adios.
Well, I guess that's certainly one way to spread the Lord to the kids. Also, if you have to call it a mic drop, it wasn't a mic drop.
Well, first of all, I've never even heard of an adult cartoon. If you're an adult and still watching cartoons, you're probably smoking pot and you need the real Jesus anyways.
Oh, geez. Sorry, I think he was coming after me directly for that one.
The fullness of the Godhead dwelt in Christ bodily. So, essentially, God did take a selfie, and his name was Jesus.
But first, let me take a selfie.
Now, this fellow was a morbid fascination of mine back in his mid-2010s heyday, to the point where I even managed to see a lot of his shenanigans as they were playing out in real time. I have really been clamoring to find out what this guy has been up to since he evaporated off of the face of the planet, as it seems, and I'm really excited to have all the Jennonites along for the ride on this one. Not to mention that as a fellow portly white guy with too many opinions and facial hair that will never be a real jawline, I know that Joshua is my people, and I feel the need to come get my man, as they say. This is just one of those fights I'm gonna have to take on alone without Jen.
He was my dog. I'll do it.
But even better, this gigantic sack of presents is perfect for a Yuletide holiday roast. A leading warrior for God on the front lines of the war on Christmas, Joshua may be known better than anything for the extraordinarily stupid lengths he was willing to go to in order to declare Christian dominion over basic creature comforts like giving gifts or peppermint mocha. I even planned to call this episode a Christmas special before I really thought about it and realized I just don't want to give him that honor in particular. So instead, I welcome you all to the Fundy Fridays Multicultural Winter Holiday Bonanza and Community Giving Festival, starring Joshua Feuerstein. We encourage all of you to sample the refreshments from local artisans with health insurance, to explore the exhibits, both religious and secular, and please note that saying Merry on festival grounds could result in fines, imprisonment, or execution. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's get down to brass tacks. Who is Joshua? Why should we care? And is he or is he not just a Kevin James character that's gotten way out of hand at this point? You know, when I started this script, I thought there were going to be a lot more Kevin James jokes than there were, but that was the only one I could fit in, so I hope you enjoyed it. Something Paul Blart Mall Cop. Okay, so the first thing to know is that we're not going to be doing the whole in-depth life and times biography thing that you're probably used to seeing from me on this channel at this point. Joshua here boasts by far the shallowest pool of information that I have ever had to dive into while creating content for this channel. Though there are exceptions, a lot of his pre-2015 life seems to have just been scrubbed from the internet, so I just can't be as thorough as I usually am. Making the process even harder, Joshua maintains an online boneyard of failed vanity projects and PR bullshit that you have to sift through as well, which isn't too awful shocking for someone like him who craves attention like it's a vital nutrient. Take, for example, this, the now long defunct JoshuaFeuerstein.com, in which he tried desperately to get the saddest, neediest hashtag I have ever seen over with the public.
Clap if you care. Clap if you care.
Or his attempt to start America's Church, a YouTube ministry project that he was clearly very passionate about from at least January to May of 2021, since that time frame is when all of the channel's content was uploaded. Please also note that all of the videos for this channel were recorded in mono audio and sound like ear-splitting ass. I can only assume that Joshua is a proud graduate of the Brittany Dawn School of Audio Engineering.
The only reason that I bring this up is to make a point that, in fact, does show that I, as a business owner, am doing things to the best of my ability to resolve any issues that may arise.
Or we can take a look at Joshua's failed attempt to go real big into American politics with Viral Pack, a political action group focused on spreading conservative social media content. Please note that Viral Pack's Instagram and Twitter both maintain exactly one post each from 2019 and 2020 respectively. Also, their biggest claim to fame seems to be slapping a hand-drawn decal NASCAR style onto the dress of fellow conservative attention seeker Joy Villa. Seriously, look at that. I have drawn with Crayola markers, and I can spot those lines anywhere. The point is, compared to what I'm used to working with, Joshua just doesn't have a whole lot of online information out there, and the information that he does have out there is suspect since it's often being depicted through the lens of his own ego and hype. So, what can we find exactly? Well, the Wayback Machine did manage to archive Joshua's biography from that now defunct website, giving us a little bit more info to work with. Also, this is the only time I ever found him referenced as Josh. Everything else seemed to be strictly Joshua. I just assume it's to sound more biblical, but as someone who thinks it's very important to use a person's chosen name when referring to them, from here on out I will be making sure to only refer to him as Joshua, and I will not refer to him by any of these nicknames on this list I prepared ahead of time. Josh, Little Joshy, Yeshua, Josh Kosh Bagosh, Steve, or Dickwad. Nope, just strictly Joshua from here on out.
Oh, Joshua. This one looks fun, right?
Now, this blurb notes that Joshua did some work with Christian concert tours like Planet Shakers or Press Play, neither of which I had heard of before I started researching this video. From what I can gather, Planet Shakers is kinda like what would happen if Bethel Music hosted the Electric Daisy Carnival.
Lord, I believe that you are greater than what I see. Yeah, Jesus, you're above everything.
As far as I can tell, the only report we have of Joshua's involvement with the Planet Shakers comes from him through this bio. That being said, it seemed like Planet Shakers was a massive organization that toured a lot of churches, so it wouldn't be too shocking if one or two of their connections went undocumented. And besides, they like to do that Christian music thing where they pack like 1 billion people on stage, so even if he was there, it'd probably be impossible to see him. Press Play, a smaller worship unit, does, however, provide us with some evidence that they worked with Josh sometime around 2010. Very specifically, 2 of their concert videos posted on his channel credit Joshua with leading an altar call that brought some people to Christ. But no, these are not the videos I wanted to explore. I was more interested in this little title that was bestowed upon him right here. Well, anyway, that certainly is entertaining, but it's not very informative. Let's go back to that bio and see if we can find anything else to work with. Okay, this is something, a viral video he made about suicide prevention. What could go wrong there? Well, it turns out a lot could go wrong. I'm going to give a warning now. In this video, Joshua does put a gun to his head, so if you don't like seeing that kind of stuff, and I know a lot of people don't, please feel free to skip to this timestamp right here.
You know, I can still remember the mere memories of pain that I used to feel 2 years ago when a fiance had walked out of my life and everything seemed to be over. I mean, she had left with another man and left my heart broken into a million pieces.
Okay, that's more than enough. So, what did we learn from that exactly? Well, here's what I took away at least. Joshua is rather unhinged, especially when it comes to dealing with sensitive social issues. He maintains a distinct flair for the dramatic, and that he may also be the physical manifestation of a Midwest emo song intro.
And it always bothered me, this question, why do bad things happen to good people? You see, because I was meditating in my mind in looking at this situation through the mentality as though I had done something wrong and that God had somehow cursed me.
But in reality, I think what we learn most from this video is the primary way that Joshua expresses himself. Vertically oriented rant videos on social media in which he can act a fool to his complete and untethered potential. Now, this particularly deranged clip came to us in 2014, just a year before Joshua Mania would fully sweep the nation. Yes, 2015 would absolutely be the year of the Joshua, as he would go viral not once, not twice, not thrice, not even fourice, but thrice in 1 year in a glorious torrent of Christo-insanity for all of us to enjoy. It's important to remember that in 2015, we were all still neck-deep in the Facebook era of the internet. I think you could probably see the decline of that platform from there, but at the time it was still the largest social media platform online and a powerful determinant of what would be considered popular culture. And it was also coincidentally perfect for a man of Joshua's particular talent for attention grabbing. Most of the clips we're going to see today come from his old pastoral Facebook page, which was truly massive in its day, with reportedly over 3 million members at its peak. We are going to be taking a look at all 5 of the heads on Joshua's overstuffed 2015 Mount Rushmore, since those clips and the associated responses to them form about 90% of Joshua's public profile. One can also, through the viewing of these clips, I think, compile a near-perfect understanding of Joshua's psyche, which is just an added bonus. So Joshua's first foray into online infamy would take place in April of 2015 upon the release of this video where he calls and harasses a local bakery for refusing to bake him an anti-gay cake.
Watch this, guys. Let's see what discrimination really is.
Good afternoon, Cupcake. This is Sharon.
Yes, Sharon. Do you guys do sheet cakes as well?
We do.
Okay. I need a sheet cake, and I need it to say, "We do not support gay marriage." Hello?
Is this a crank call?
No.
Oh, we wouldn't do that. Sorry.
You wouldn't do it? Why? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Okay, first of all, she didn't refuse your cake order. She sniffed out a bad faith crank call 3 seconds in, like all food service workers can do. And second of all cake is a little bit gay, Joshua. You're just gonna have to get used to that. Yes, even carrot cake. Now, I do need to mention that as this tape progresses beyond what we've seen here, Joshua gives out both the name and address of the bakery, along with the name of the bakery's owner. Now, obviously, I'm not going to play that part of the clip because I'm not an asshole, but I think it's important context to bring up because otherwise he could very well end up just looking like an entertaining brat throwing a religious temper tantrum instead of the dangerous extremist that he is. Furthermore, Joshua does not seem to be the type to give up on grudges very easily, as he carried this anti-gay cake grudge all the way into July, where he would release his second viral clip of the year. Wow, 2 clips going viral on the same subject? What a crazy lucky coincidence for Joshua. I sure hope he doesn't do anything extra loopy to get all of that attention.
Do you realize that this last week, a judge ordered a $135,000 fine against a baker who refused to bake a gay wedding cake? That's his First Amendment right to refuse. Why are we backing down to the government and not drawing a line in the sand? They're coming after our First Amendment constitutional rights. Well, check this out. This is one pastor that will not bow. Why? Because my First Amendment right is guaranteed by my Second Amendment right.
But it's a lucky thing I had my pieces.
Your pieces.
My guns.
Oh.
Joshua, buddy, I am begging you. Can you please leave the guns out of the videos for a little while? Every time you do that, YouTube carves up our ad revenue like a Christmas goose. You're tax exempt. We aren't, okay? Well, luckily, I do know that at least in this next clip, he doesn't bring out any guns, and unfortunately, he makes up for that by giving us all the most incorrect, overblown, and nauseating description of, well, I guess it's what he thinks an abortion is, that I've ever heard in my life. Consider this another trigger warning if you have any trauma associated with childbirth or honestly just gore in general. Go ahead and skip to this timestamp here.
Planned Parenthood has hunted down millions and millions of little innocent babies, stuck a knife into the uterus, cut them, pulled them out, crushed their skull with forceps, ripped their body apart, sold their tissue, and threw them bleeding into a trash bin. I say tonight, we punish Planned Parenthood. I think it's time that abortion doctors should have to run and hide and be afraid for their life.
Yep, I tried to write a joke about that, and nothing plays off that material. Also, please note that Joshua tried very particularly to scrub this clip off of the internet near the end of 2015, which I'm sure was related to some personal growth and introspection on his part. But for real, it may seem ridiculous to folks like us, but this stuff is very motivating for some very bad people. But no time to dwell on it because Joshua found a new topic to stroke his angry bone to in September of 2015, producing his 4th viral clip of the year. This one in particular covers the very important subject of, let me check my notes here, children's toys. Children's toys is the subject of this one. Specifically, he would have quite a lot to say about a viral video of this father who dared to allow his son the pleasure of an Ariel Barbie doll.
I let my boys choose their life. That's how Mama and I, that's how we are, right? We just say whatever. Yeah! We say yeah, choose it. Choose your expression, choose what you're into, choose your sexuality, choose whatever.
Oh yeah, so it's essentially a heartwarming viral video where everyone had a good time and no one got hurt. Now let's see how Josh ruins it. And FYI, I really wanted to censor the kids here, but it's basically impossible, and besides, Joshua let this video clip be played on a daytime talk show, so it's not like he cares.
So there's an article that's going viral, a picture of a dad that went to Walmart, took back one of his son's toys that he had gotten for his birthday that he didn't care for, and he let his son go back to the toy department and choose whatever toy he wanted to, only for his little boy to pick out a little girl's toy. Really? Since when do kids make good choices? We live in this society that thinks that kids are supposed to make choices like that, and that we're not supposed to choose for them. We're supposed to let them express themselves. Seriously, since when do kids make good choices? I train up a boy by teaching him how to use a firearm.
I don't know what I expected.
Sadly, though, we're not even done yet. This somehow manages to get more ridiculous from there.
Since you want to be gender neutral, guess who else I'm teaching to use a gun? My daughters. And fire. Hit it? Yeah. That's for you, guy who has no who needs to grow a pair and be a dad and train a child.
You know, I can't tell what's funnier / more alarming. The girl's complete disinterest in this activity or the boy's 1,000-yard apocalypse stare. Well, I suppose that's just how it is when you're raised by a strong Christian man. You know, the kind of man who takes stock of how many testicles other men have or bases his masculinity on the toys that his young children choose. Good Lord, you know this man has never washed his butthole once in his entire life. And finally, we have arrived at the holiday season of 2015. It is here where Joshua would drop his most famous cipher of all time and forever etch his name into the halls of Festivus history by airing his grievances out with an entire coffee chain in the stupidest way imaginable. Please, let us all just gather here and take a moment to observe together this bit of American history.
You know, I think in the age of political correctness, we become so open-minded, our brains have literally fallen out of our head. Do you realize that Starbucks wanted to take Christ and Christmas off of their brand new cups? That's why they're just plain red. In fact, do you realize that Starbucks isn't allowed to say Merry Christmas to customers? Well, I decided, instead of simply boycotting, well, why don't we just start a movement? So when I went in and I asked for my coffee, they asked for my name, and I told them my name is Merry Christmas. So guess what? Starbucks, I tricked you into putting Merry Christmas on your cup. And I'm challenging all great Americans and Christians around this great nation, go into Starbucks and take your own coffee selfie. And then I challenge you to not only share this video so that the word gets out, but let's start a movement. And let's call it, I don't know, hashtag Merry Christmas Starbucks.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take stock of what Joshua actually accomplished there, shall we? He put a food service worker in a crappy, controversial position in order to defend his faith against the decisions of Starbucks executives thousands of miles away. Brilliant move there, bud. I'm sure that the other 2 employees and 3 sleepy people in that Starbucks were super duper impressed with your bold stance. You got anything else, bud?
And Starbucks, guess what? Just to offend you, I made sure to wear my Jesus Christ shirt into your store. And since you hate the Second Amendment, I even carried my gun. Yikes.
Okay, you know what? I worked really hard on that joke, okay? The joke about how Joshua pulls out guns at weird times. I wrote all the jokes, I spaced them out, I set up the punchlines, and very importantly, I followed the rule of 3s to the letter on this one, okay? To the letter, only for this punk to somehow slip in a 4th gun on me. How the hell does that happen?
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
But for real, what drives me particularly bonkers about this clip is that this was all being recorded in the same era where people were making fun of women for posting their pumpkin spice lattes on Instagram by calling them basic and shit. At least they were happy about their coffee, okay? I'm sure they tipped better than Joshua too, and no one gave him any shit. And in fact, this clip was the big break he had been dreaming of way back in the simpler days of air guitar with his cool rock buddies. For basically the entirety of November 2015, our society rewarded this man's bad behavior by making him the topic of conversation on the internet, and he truly was instrumental in popularizing the modern war on Christmas as we know it today. But then just like that, it was all over. Take a look at this dude's Google search traffic history over time. Anybody want to venture a guess as to what month and year that big spike is on? Seriously, by the beginning of 2016, Joshua seems to have sailed right off of the edge of the flat earth you know he believes in, never to be heard from again. Okay, never heard from again is probably a bit of an overstatement. A guy like Joshua is always going to find a way to inflict his opinions on others as long as he has 2 functioning vocal cords and access to stable Wi-Fi. But his videos would never again reach the peak of popularity that they did in November of 2015, which I find particularly notable since at that time we were just about to enter what I would think is the most Joshua-friendly era of American politics we may ever see in this country. Now, that isn't to say that Joshua didn't try to stay relevant in the era of Trump, as we can see from this 2018 nightmare fuel.
So a lot of times people ask me, Mr. President, who's some of your heroes, okay? I'm going to tell you, Jesus Christ, great guy, fantastic guy, did a lot of great stuff, okay? Wrote a #1 bestseller, you probably heard of it, the Bible, okay? And Josh Feuerstein, great guy, making America great again. Okay? Making America great again. You heard it here first.
Oh, by the way, that creature's name is Joshua, and he is now officially your sleep paralysis demon. Ironically, though, Trump's rise seems to be the beginning of Josh's eventual and unceremonious downfall. It makes sense if you think about it. Joshua's claim to fame was never based on his talent as a big man Jesus buffoon, but rather on the fact that he was one of the first big man Jesus buffoons. In 2015, he existed as a standout voice among a much smaller pool of mad pastors and shouting white boys, whereas now he's just one of so many. Joshua's MAGA mania also led directly to the loss of his biggest asset when his pastoral Facebook page, as we said before, boasting over 3 million followers, was deleted in the summer of 2020. Reports are hazy as to what exactly led to this deletion, but do indicate that posts condoning and or encouraging violence in the wake of the Rittenhouse murders in Kenosha were a likely culprit. Joshua has since moved back to his personal Facebook page, and while it is smaller and less engaged than his other one, he has not given up his work or his persona. Furthermore, his inverse success relationship with Donald Trump seems to have held true once again in 2021, as we would see him poke his head back out into the public spotlight for the first time in about half a decade as Trump was being mailed back to Mar-a-Lago.
I don't see it in here. Oh, excuse me, you just caught me reading the Constitution, and I was looking for the part in here where it says that the media gets to call the election, and it's not in here. So CNN, fake news, all of you other media outlets that want to say that it's over, it's not over until the fat lady sings, and Rosie O'Donnell hasn't even started warming up her voice quite yet.
Seriously, bro, a Rosie O'Donnell reference, that's timely. Yeah, didn't your bio say something about, like, resonating with the millennial generation or something? I know my people aren't kids anymore, but that stuff is old even by our standards, dude.
I know what's hip, I know what's on, I know what's lit, I know what's fleek, that's why I'm here.
Truly, though, Joshua did pursue this idea of election fraud far beyond just pretending to read the Constitution like I'm sure he always does. In fact, he would take his cause all the way to D.C., where this clip would be filmed on January 5th of 2021.
But we as the Church of the Living God are standing up saying we're not just mad at hell, but we're mad as hell. The Bible declares that it was David that defeated the lion and the bear. Unfortunately, today, we don't fight lions and bears. We fight liberals and rhinos.
Reports actually indicate that Joshua was under investigation by the FBI for not only participating, but potentially even taking a leadership role in the January 6th insurrection. But given how those investigations seem to be going and how Joshua has dodged consequences in other situations where he threatened violence, I don't feel like we're going to get anything out of this. I mean, Joshua even expanded his disinformation portfolio in 2021 after this by taking up COVID denialism with just an incredible fervor.
I realize that for this last year that maybe you've been fed fear and fear and fear, but the Bible says that God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. You have a sound mind. You don't have to wear the mask. You got Jesus. You don't need the vaccine. You got Jesus.
Okay, so you don't need the mask or the vaccines because you got Jesus. Okay. How'd that one work out for you, Joshua?
I started thinking about, when I was writing my sermon today, Pastor Joshua Feuerstein was supposed to be our preacher. And he called in last moment because he might have got the thing. You know the thing? He might have got that thing. And so he's packing the Droxy and the ivermectin, so we want to keep him and his family in prayer.
Well, let's all hope that the horse medication worked out for him. And finally, here in the year of our Lord 2022, Joshua is still trudging along trying to find that same viral success that found him in 2015. For example, at the beginning of this year, he started a relationship advice and chat show with his wife on YouTube. Let's see how that went.
You know, it's like Garth Brooks says, sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. Remember when you're talking to the man upstairs, just because he doesn't answer doesn't mean he don't care. Yeah, so
Yikes. Well, I can see now why that project didn't make it out of the first trimester. If I were Jess, I wouldn't have been able to put up with that for very long either. And in a very interesting development just this month, Joshua now seems to be alluding to the start of his own big money, high profile Christian network or streaming service akin to something like Up TV or PureFlix. He does have one very notable supporter in this endeavor too, in the previously mentioned Pastor Greg Locke. And in fact, Joshua and Greg seem to have gotten very close with one another over the past year. In October of this year, they both joined the board of a conservative Christian insurance company, whatever the hell that means, and Greg reportedly donated money to a missionary fund for Joshua's son in November. I mean, they really do kind of make a fitting pair, though, don't they? Mask for Mask is clearly alive and well, it would seem. But I can't help but feel the timing on this is a little weird. I mean, we all know that Greg has that movie he's been trying to get off the ground for years now.
Go up in a school board meeting with an Iron Man outfit on, praise God. Oh, teaching my kids about it.
So yeah, maybe we haven't seen the last of Joshua's media heyday, but I think we have. He may talk a big game about investors and how he almost totally had a TV pilot go through at one time, but I've seen the Google Analytics, and this guy's 15 minutes of fame are long gone. God took a selfie and his name was Jesus may have killed in the Obama years, but now that shit is corny as hell, and I don't think he has better material. So even if he did manage to secure all of this project funding, what's he going to do with it? People aren't watching his free content right now. How does he think he's going to get people to pay money for it? If you ask me, this thing's going to turn out like Quibi for Jesus. And with that, I suppose it's time for my conclusion, but I can't do it in here. The vibe is all off for some reason. I don't know. I've got an idea. I think I can give Joshua the real conclusion that he deserves. All I need you to do is meet me over at camera 2.
Hey everybody, King James here. Now I really did just want to spend today enjoying this delicious beverage from my favorite local coffee establishment, but unfortunately they are not going to let me do that. No. Did you know that right now the conservative Christian elite in this country are working hard to put Joshua Feuerstein back onto your phone and TV screens? Now, you may not recall the name Joshua Feuerstein, considering he basically hasn't mattered for 7 years now and was only famous on the internet like a loser. But King James, he doesn't forget, oh no, and he's here to drop a hashtag truth bomb on all of you. This guy is bad, bad news. He threatens and doxes proud Americans like bakers and abortion doctors. He makes it his business to harass our nation's great food service workers. He hates gay cake, and he wants to tell you what toys you're allowed to buy for your kids. Does that sound like American values to you? Would you want your kids watching a guy like that? But now those same Christian elites that made him famous in the past want to give him thousands, perhaps even millions of dollars to start his own media studio. They want to take away your rights to threaten your freedoms as an American and an atheist by putting this guy all over and on any screen they can find. Let me be clear, this is a plot to destroy our way of life, and while many of my fellow non-believing leftists seem to be perfectly fine with this, I guess I just care too much about my country and my way of life. So unlike these other fake theists, as I call them, I'm going to hashtag stand up and fight. Now, if you're watching this video, I can only assume that you're like me, a proud liberal atheist who isn't going to just sit by and watch this Jesus-flavored has-been get another shot to annoy, harass, and harm the world. Oh no. And with your help, I think we can not only get this guy off our screens for good, but maybe even send him down to his mama's basement where he can smoke weed and watch adult cartoons all day. And I think I just figured out a great way for us to do that. You know, like every good American atheist, I've been watching the World Cup. And when I recently saw France get humbled by Argentina, I thought, maybe it's time we do a little humbling of our own. So Satan forbid if you do see Joshua Feuerstein and his little Jesus project pop into any of your feeds. I want you to be the Argentina to his France and go in there and humble him. And how are you going to do that? Well, it's simple, really. Just leave a comment with the hashtag November 2015 is over. That will remind Joshua that some of us do not forget him and that we do not approve of his face on any of our screens or our feeds or our For You pages. And with your help, I'm going to drive this guy right off the internet for good. So until next time, I hope you have an excellent day and that you allow the Dark Lord to guide you in these perilous times. Hashtag King James out.
All right. Another one in the books, and just in time for the holidays. I want to take a moment to thank you all, as usual, for spending some time with me and going on this crazy Feuerstein ride. I know it's especially wild right now with the holidays and the winter storms and the blizzards and all of that, so if you took time to sit down and watch, it means even more. Thank you so much. If you really like what we do here, I really encourage you to consensually smash that like and subscribe button. And if you really, really like what we do here, consensually smash that little bell icon so that anytime we put out something new, you're one of the first people to know about it. We do have a bonfire page if you'd like to buy some Fundy Fridays merch. We have some great new t-shirts, and I mean new. We just put some brand new stuff in there. They just got tie-dye for the first time, all kinds of stuff. Please check out our bonfire page. It's down in the description. If you really, really want to help out the channel, the absolute best way to do that is through our Patreon. Seriously, that is what pays our bills and allows us to make content full-time for you all. We're hoping to be able to continue that next year, expand, and even make some new stuff. We're really excited, and we're just a few days away now from that new year. So other than that, I'm tired. I filmed this late at night again because I'm a procrastinator. Thank you all so much. It means the world that took time to sit down and watch something I made, and it always will. So I love you all. You have the happiest holiday you can, no matter what it is you celebrate. We love you here, and I'll see you in the new year. Y'all take care.
Why, there's no such things as adult cartoons. Watch things that adults watch, like the news or, I don't know, The Blacklist or some other show that adults would watch.